This week, the WEF have been meeting in Davos, and we're going to dedicate maybe 10 or 15 minutes now to what's been said at Davos, who's going, why they're going, and the themes that are emerging so far in this year's meeting. I'm going to start off with a video that was posted out this morning by Irish Minister for Finance, Michael McGrath, who was at Davos with the Irish Prime Minister, or Taoiseach Michael Martin, representing Ireland. And McGrath put out this video to explain why he and the Irish delegation were attending the WEF. And I'm just showing this so that I can show videos post this video in which we can indicate that what he's saying is in reality not very valid, and that he's going there maybe to get directions from the business world as opposed to going there to work as an equal with other members who are attending. We'll just have a quick look at this.
Hi there, good morning from Davos in Switzerland. I'm here for the next couple of days for the World Economic Forum, which is essentially a gathering of business and political leaders from all over the world. The main purpose of my visit here on behalf of the Irish government, along with the Taoiseach, is to promote Ireland as a place to do business. The companies who have a presence here this week in Davos collectively employ tens of thousands of people in Ireland, and I and the Taoiseach and the IDA will be making the case for continued investment and job creation in Ireland this week. I will be hosting an IDA dinner tonight where many of those client companies will be present, and I'll also be doing a number of international media interviews, again setting out the case for Ireland as an attractive place to do business. So really looking forward to the next couple of days. It's a great opportunity for us to set out Ireland's case, and I look forward to doing so. Thank you very much.
So that was Irish Finance Minister Michael McGrath putting out a video there explaining why the Irish government has representation at the WEF, and it's all about stoking up business, according to Michael McGrath. However, the organisers might have a different opinion in terms of what the WEF Davos meeting is all about. This is a video from this year's Davos meeting, and one of the main organisers and faces of the WEF, Klaus Schwab, and he's talking about changing nation-state capitalism to something that he defines as stakeholder capitalism, which to me is major corporations making the decisions about and around the world and governments having to follow suit. Let's have a look at this pretty scary video. But these are the guys that are organising the Davos meeting and that are creating the themes for discussion and that are promoting these narratives and at times these crazy ideas.
Who will really command the fourth industrial revolution and its technology like artificial intelligence?
What's your sense of who's best placed at this time to lead the world into the fourth industrial revolution? Because you pretty much created this term. We're seeing the kind of technological strides that China has made with Huawei, with the 5G technology. Do you believe that this could potentially be China's time once again?
We should make here again let's say a differentiation. On the one hand, we have state capitalism. On the other hand, we have shareholder or private capitalism. So it's a clash between two systems. I believe that state capitalism in the short term provides certain advantages because you can mobilize in a concentrated way a lot of resources to reach a specific objective. But I believe that the future is not state capitalism or shareholder capitalism. The future is what I call stakeholder capitalism, which is combined with the social responsibility.
Okay, so that's Klaus Schwab talking about this idea of his of stakeholder capitalism. To my mind, what he's really doing is driving the private sector further into controlling what used to be a democratic process of decision making and ensuring that nation states follow suit whatever the determinations of extremely powerful corporations are, and that the Davos meeting itself and the WEF is really a funnel or a conduit for directions from the corporatism towards the democratically elected governments, which are not serving the people of any country. Do you have any opinion on this before I move forward with a few more videos from Davos this week, Padraig?
Yeah, the word that you mentioned there, corporatism, I think if you look up the definition, going back through history of the merger between state and private enterprise interests, you would find corporatism, and if you look that up and see what did it mean in history, it's a powerful term, so it does appear to be kind of dangerous in terms of there is no democratic input that I can see in this. So yeah, do you want to roll on and we'll respond further?
Yeah, so I just want to look now at the attitudes and the philosophies and the beliefs about the world, and the beliefs that they hold about themselves, these people who are attending Davos and the WEF Global Forum. This is John Kerry, former Vice President of the United States, and he's talking about how special the people are that go to Davos, the special purpose, the saviors that they are. Just have a listen to this for a minute.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
So they seem to have quite a view of themselves as self-appointed saviors who had some experience in their life that has brought them to become these self-appointed, though I don't think they're really self-appointed. They're appointed by corporations and things like that who support them. But self-appointed saviors, pretty scary to my mind. Another scary aspect is that there's a guy spoke the other day or yesterday at the forum called Alan Bassett, and he's the president of the Swiss Confederation. And he spoke about the idea that self-interest and helping others are one and the same thing. And this really is trying to create some kind of a neo-capitalist philosophy of greed and justification for wealth and justification for the 1%. And let's have a listen to this.
We must do all we can to support fragile states, otherwise they risk becoming failed states. That is why Switzerland will work systematically on behalf of the most vulnerable, in particular to protect the civilian population and improve food security. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, fragility poses a threat to all of us. That is true domestically, but it is also true internationally. Self-interests and supporting those weaker than ourselves. We have long considered these to be two different things, but now we know they are one and they are the same. Thank you very much.
In my mind, that's, again, a very colonialist approach or an imperialist approach to things, that we can benefit and profit ourselves while we help you. And that's what we've been hearing probably really for a few hundred years to justify the colonial experience, where they say, oh, well, we brought civilization to India, we brought civilization, when there were civilizations there already, and they just robbed and raped the place bare, is what they did essentially. Any thoughts on that one, Padraig?
The fear is that corporations become more powerful than governments, and there's evidence that we've gotten to that stage in certain cases because of the wealth in some of these companies, the influence that they exert over of the world in terms of communication and information and different aspects of life. Like, they are really moving away, a big divergence from democratic norms. So like, everybody is told that, you know, the democratic way is the only way, and that's widely accepted. But like, when you actually drill into it and say, do these people have any actual resonance with what that means? Like when you see people going to say a UN meeting, like global body meeting, so whether it be the WHO or the UN, they have a purpose and a reason for being there, whatever we might make about decision making on those. But when a construct like this is put together by huge corporation leaders and political leaders, and the exertion of power over people that were sent there, we never sent them, we never gave them a mandate to go there. We're told that our government is there on basically a trade mission. But these trade missions invariably end up with big corporations coming into Ireland. But what benefit do they bring to the Irish people? Do they provide jobs? Do they enhance the environment? Are they a big draw on our resources, on our energy? Do they change our security, our freedoms? Like there's big questions around this, and it is a taboo subject matter. It seems to be not talked about generally, like as if it's not real, you know, like that it is actually this construct that's happening in Davos every year is something for only mad people to be talking about. So what would you be looking at that for? But to me, it is a collection of the richest people in the world, and our governments. So it's a strange construct, and I'd really like to see a little bit more transparency about what's going on there.
Yeah. I think one of the problematics, one of many problematics with the WEF is that although the Irish government says they're going on a trade mission, the organisers repeatedly state that the Davos meeting and the WEF is about shaping the future of the world and the future of humanity. That's what they say. They don't say it's about trade. They don't say it's about shaping our future, and it's about corporations shaping our future. A big focus of the WEF is AI, artificial intelligence. And when I look at the programs that the WEF have, it isn't a case that the WEF are going to governments for guidance or for direction. It's a case that governments and big international bodies are coming to the WEF to be trained, to be told how things are going to be. And they stated quite clearly themselves in their documentation and in their statements, if you go onto the website, which may look a little bit sterile until you really listen, focus in on the language that's been used and the propositions that lie in between the lines quite often. So it is pretty scary. It's also unusual, I suppose, that Klaus Schwab and the other main speaker who's made a multitude of speeches so far over the last few days at Davos, Ursula von der Leyen, she is from the same familial type background as Klaus Schwab. I won't say any more than that, but I'll let you look into that yourselves. And these are the two guys that are leading the Davos meeting this year. And Schwab normally leads it every year. Anyway, this is Ursula von der Leyen talking about that future, that new AI future that we all have to accept. This is her talking yesterday at Davos.
The next decades will see the greatest industrial transformation of our times, maybe of any times. And those who develop and manufacture the technology that will be the foundation of tomorrow's economy will have the greatest competitive edge. So the scale of the opportunity is clear for all to see.
So that was von der Leyen, or as I like to call her, fond of lying, telling us what our future is going to be with no consultation. No, I don't know. Have you ever heard anything at local democratic level talking about these things, Padraig?
No, and like you know, one of the comments that I heard before was, you know, the WEF is a think tank. It doesn't necessarily mean what they're saying it equates to government policy. This is just a collection of entrepreneurial types that are invested in a technocratic kind of outlook on the future. But here's somebody who is ahead of a very powerful construct in our world, like the EU, and she's very clear on her vision. Like, and like you say, there's this, like we spoke about sovereignty before, like, you know, like we have elected whether we like them or not, and our system for electing them may be quite flawed, and we may feel that the democratic input we get when we return these people and 5 years later is the next time you get to see them. But there is no link to democracy here. That's the worrying part.
Yeah. Okay. The vision that she has set out, that you refer to there, has also been set out in finer detail as well. I have Bastian Goodall here, who spoke at the WEF about 15-minute cities. And this is not something that is a proposition for the future. This is actually being piloted at the moment in the UK, amongst other places. And these 15-minute cities, well, we'll talk about them in a wee minute. We'll just have a look at this video first.
Yeah, so I think what's important for policy is really to change the rules of the game, no? So that sustainability becomes the easier choice, not just for the people, but also for the companies, no? So I think an important measure in Switzerland was to have support for renewable energy, for energy efficiency, but also then changing the way districts work. For instance, in Zurich, we have a lot of districts where you actually don't need a car because all the activities, no, school, buying something, everything you can do in walking distance, no? And by doing that, no, people don't buy a car, and it's not felt like actually they would like to have a car and they are not allowed to have it, but they simply don't need it because the environment was built in a way that they don't need it. And I think this is what policy needs to do. They have to change the environment. So a sustainable lifestyle, a lifestyle in harmony with nature is the easiest way to go. And also for the companies, no? And here perhaps a last point. I really like what you said on following through, no? We had all these nice commitments. We had the Paris Agreement. We also here at World Economic Forum have every year very nice commitments. What's important is really to follow through and also to shed the light. Sometimes you're very critical with those who are acting, say there are, and we need to be critical, no, and see that there's no greenwashing, but we should also put the light on those who are not acting. And I think policy needs to try, and I think, for instance, Biden's suggestion that the government only buys with companies who commit to Paris, who commit to science-based targets, I think that's a smart policy. So that policy tries to leverage also the action from companies and somehow gets all companies to act. No, I think this is a smart way to do politics. In the end, policy needs also to be smart because, again, we need to have the buy-in from all the population, else we're not re-elected and change is not happening. No, so it needs to be smart policy, which is at the same time also transformative. No.
Okay, Padraig, so that's a guy talking about essentially 15-minute cities and smart cities and things like that. It was tried in Oxford. You came across examples of it being tried in Oxford. I read some articles myself. What do you think about the idea of 15-minute cities that's been pushed by the WEF?
Like most of these transformative ideas are based on a need that's put forward. So whether it be a climate need, sustainability, energy need, whatever it is, they don't be generally put forward just without some sort of a cause behind it, just as some sort of type of progress, human progress. They're never framed like that. They're always framed as a need,
as a crisis.
Yeah. So that's the worrying thing. Like even if you want to look back in recent history, like we've had just in the COVID period, that's just about gone. I think the amount of wealth that was transferred during that time, it just coincidentally worked out very, very well for some very big companies, and it did drive an awful lot of what would have been before a lot of in-person business online, and this seems to be the way we're going. And probably be talking later on about digitized money, and cash. These things, they're kind of very hard to see these changes unless there's a stimulus for that change, and it seems these things just tend to align, like, for some reason. I don't know.
But none of it is bottom up. It's all top down. It's all coming from the top. It's all coming from so-called experts. Whenever we're presented with one of these crises, we're told that they are 100% backed by all experts in the field, and that in itself turns out quite often to be a lie. Even the climate thing, I'm not going to get into an argument about climate, but there are thousands of climatologists and scientists who are arguing that the climate crisis is not what we're being told it is. So again, this 15-minute city thing, it just seems to be another add-on to that. No real consultation. It's just been sold to our politicians from corporations for some strange reason. Another theme of the WEF Davos meeting was war. Of course, it is always war, isn't it? These guys have a big interest in war. Big focus on Ukraine this year. We've got a video of Ursula von der Leyen, asking for private investment into not only the Ukraine war, but the rebuilding of Ukraine as well.
Union. And it is a perfect opportunity to take investment and reform to pave this way for Ukraine towards the European Union. And my call on you is, we need every helping hand on board. Ukraine deserves to have as much support as possible. And what we need is not only investment with the public sector, but the private investment and your knowledge. You know so much in your respective fields. So we need your knowledge. We need every hand on board to really move forward with repair, relief at the very beginning, but also reconstruction. The people of Ukraine really deserve it.
Okay. She also used the opportunity to just invert the facts in relation to the impact of economic sanctions and military contributions to Ukraine have had on Russia. Just have a listen to this drivel.
Countries are providing more and more critical weapons to Ukraine. We're hosting around 4 million Ukrainians in our cities, our homes, and our schools. And we have put in place the strongest sanctions ever, which leave the Russian economy facing a decade of regression and its industry starved of any modern and critical technologies. There will be no impunity for these Russian crimes. And, my friends, there will be no let-up in our steadfast support to Ukraine.
Okay, and not only were they focusing on Ukraine, there seems to be a focus on expanding the war, or at least expanding civil disruption and creating civil war elsewhere. Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, who describes herself on Twitter as the national leader of Belarus, but is also living in Lithuania at the moment, and is calling essentially for civil war in Belarus. And she got a free space to speak to leaders in Davos, at the WEF Davos function this week. And it's just, who the hell is this person?
We are supporting Ukrainians as we can with information. When the war has started, our railway partisans disrupted railways to slow down equipment, Russian equipment going to Ukraine. Our volunteers spread information inside Belarus what's going on in reality. But now we are in such a position when Belarus unexpectedly people became co-aggressor in this war, because Lukashenko is maybe the only ally to Putin. He has to be loyal. He provided our country as launch pad for missiles, for training of Russian soldiers. And I have to say that the Belarusian army is not loyal to Lukashenko. They don't want to die or to be killed on the Ukrainian battlefields for the ambitions of two usurpers. They don't want our nations, Ukrainian and Belarusians, to become enemies. And Lukashenko knows this, and that's why he's so insecure about sending Belarusian troops to Ukraine. Because our soldiers, even if they are sent, they could change the sides, they could defect, they could hide or whatever. But Lukashenko is welcoming all the Russian troops, all the Russian equipment, and for sure Belarus can be again and again used as aircraft carrier for Russians. The presence of Russian troops, the number is about 12,000 people at the moment, is for threatening Belarusian people to control Belarusian people and to distract attention of Ukrainian troops from hotspots on the east to northern side. I know that Ukrainians are prepared for possible land attacks from the side of Belarus, but our task is to prevent such invasion. We are working very thoroughly with our Belarusian army, explaining what's going on, because they might be misinformed about this. So this internal explanation is very important in this issue. So we want the world to divide Lukashenko's regime and Belarusian people and to perceive us differently.
What do you think about that? The self-proclaimed national leader of Belarus, who nobody's really ever heard of before, is presented to Davos and world leaders and is talking about basically creating a civil war in her own country. What do you think of that, Padraig?
Reckless, really, isn't it? Like, if the organization of the WEF was standing for any type of commonality between people, would surely not be sound more geopolitical disorder. Like, you know, like their remit seems to be very wide in their eyes.
Yeah, and again, they are creating the narrative. Our world leaders are lapping it up. And ultimately, most global leaders that are attending this are careerists, and they're just interested in their career. I think this lady is most probably a CIA or a NATO intelligence stooge of some sort, put there to sow discontent.